I was going to break down how good Notre Dame will be without Olivia Miles and what they will look like when she comes back. But this video was getting way too long. Double the current length of the video if you want an idea on how long it was. So I'll just make a video on Olivia Miles in the lineup when her return date is announced. If I accidentally mention something about Olivia Miles being in the lineup, it's because I recorded everything before excluding her, but I did my best to edit those parts out. Anyways, let's get into it. Notre Dame has become criminally underrated over the course of the offseason. It's kind of funny because Olivia Miles didn't get the credit she deserved until she was injured. As soon as she got injured, you started hearing more media members talk about how huge of an impact she had on the team. She's one of the best players in the country, and by extension, that makes her the best player on Notre Dame. But I think this team is being heavily downplayed because of her injury. Ideally, it's better for her to be back and fully healthy. But even if she's not, this team will be completely fine. I think Notre Dame will be what everyone seems to think UCLA will be. I'll elaborate on this more later in the video, but if UCLA is considered a top 4 team, there's no reason to think Notre Dame won't be the same, and this is even if Olivia Miles doesn't return. Admittedly, Notre Dame is one of my favorite teams, but I'm going to be objective. I would say all this stuff even if I didn't like them. A big reason I have faith in this team is because of Niele Ivey. She turned the team around very quickly. Her second year, she was 1 score away from making the Elite 8. Her third year, she won the ACC regular season title and made it to the Sweet 16, even after losing Olivia Miles late into the season. Notre Dame will make another leap this year too. Olivia Miles being injured is unfortunate, but there's a silver lining. It forces other players to step up and improve. Notre Dame is a supremely talented roster, but I felt at times Niele Ivey and the rest of the team relied on Olivia way too much. The best way to describe it is a calculator. Calculators make math so much easier, and you should absolutely use it. But when you use it too much, your skills without a calculator slowly get worse. This is what it was like at Notre Dame last year. The defense is so scared of Olivia that it created easy looks for everyone else. This is great, but a side effect is that other players got used to not having to create their own shot. That's a big reason. When she got hurt, the offense fell apart. It's not that they didn't have the ability to do it. It's because they didn't need to for 2 years. The same way you saw UConn players step up and improve after losing Paige and Azzi. You'll see the same at Notre Dame. Even without Olivia Miles, I think this team is still the best team in the ACC. Depending how certain players develop, I think they can compete for a title even without Olivia. There's only one player who scored over 25 points against Notre Dame, and that was Diamond Miller. Not Haley Van Lith, not Liz Kitley. Even the leading ACC scoring Tania Latson couldn't do it. The few people that were able to score at least 20 points against them, it was usually on garbage efficiency. If there's one thing this team will do, it's that they will not let the other team's best player beat them. If a team wants to beat Notre Dame, they have to use their supporting cast, and they aren't going to make it easy. They have length and athleticism in basically every position. They get so many off-ball steals and will give you nightmares when guarding you on the ball. Their opponents only average 36% field goal percentage and 28% three-point percentage. It goes without saying that's some insane defense. This team is loaded with talent. I think pretty much everyone will be important to their success. But if we are assuming Olivia doesn't come back or isn't healthy enough to contribute this year, there's 3 players in particular that will be the deciding factor in whether or not Notre Dame will be competing for a title. Sonia Citron, Hannah Hidalgo, and Maddy Westbeld are going to be the keys. Sonia Citron is so underrated that she underrates herself. She frustrates me sometimes. I never thought it was possible for a player to be too unselfish. Sonia Citron is a good player the way she is, but she could easily be a superstar. I'm talking about the top 10 players at the college level. We saw flashes of what she could really do. She scored 24 against Maryland on only 14 shots. She also had 10 rebounds, or that time she lit up Louisville when Olivia got hurt, 27 points on only 13 shots, or that time she dropped 28, 9, and 5 against NC State in the ACC tournament. But there's a lot of games where she is completely idle on offense. I can live with Citron having off nights in terms of shooting. But what's frustrating is when the team is struggling and she still barely shoots, or when she's having a hot night and just completely stops. But what makes Citron so good? She's a 6'1" guard who can score on all three levels. She shoots 40% from three and 48% from the field. This is amazing efficiency. She almost always guards the best player on the opposing team and does a great job at it. I think Citron has the talent and ability to be a top 10 player, but for sake of argument, let's say this doesn't happen. For Notre Dame to be title competitive, she just needs to add a little bit to what she's already doing. Taking a few more shots, but keeping the same level of efficiency, getting a little bit better at passing, getting her free throw percentage back to over 80% like she did her freshman year. I'm going to put on the screen what I think her junior averages could look like. This is very realistic and would be enough if the other players get better too. There's no replacement or equal to Olivia Miles, but Hannah Hidalgo is the closest you can get. If you aren't familiar with Hannah Hidalgo, I suggest you check her highlights. But I'll give a quick rundown. She broke Sabrina Ionescu's point record in the McDonald's All-American game. She also tied the steals record in the same game. She dominated in the Under-19 FIBA tournament. She made the All-Star 5. If you think this isn't a big deal, I'll just list off the last 5 American players to make the All-Star 5. Caitlin Clark, Sonia Citron, Paige Beckers, Ryan Howard, and Kennedy Carter. There hasn't been a better true point guard in the last 3 years. You will have to go back to 2020 to find someone with better skills at the one. Her court vision already looks on par with Olivia, which is insane. She pushes the pace the same way Olivia does. Don't even get me started on her defense. If the other team doesn't have a top tier guard, they're going to be in some trouble because Hidalgo and Citron are going to eat them alive. Notre Dame's offense will barely miss a beat next season with Hidalgo. It might actually be better because, as I said before, it forces Niele Ivey to utilize other players instead of letting Olivia carry. And this brings me into Maddy Westbeld. Maddy Westbeld was the ACC Freshman of the Year. People forget how nasty Maddy Westbeld was. She was and still is the most skilled 6'3" player. Her play style and ability is very similar to Nikola Jokic. We're talking about a 6'3" player who can shoot turnaround jumpers, knock down three-point shots, shoot mid-ranges off the dribble, and occasionally drive to the basket. On top of that, she's a decent passer and a really good defender. I think Niele Ivey has done an amazing job, but she completely missed the mark with Westbeld. She's up there with Fran Belibi in terms of wasted potential. Her skill set at her size is extremely rare, and it's criminally underutilized. When Niele Ivey got Olivia Miles and Citron, she completely abandoned Westbeld. She completely regressed her sophomore year. People will say it's just because her usage rate went down, but that doesn't explain her shooting percentages going down. But I think the old Maddy will come back. With Miles being out, Ivy is able to put more attention into her again. We need that Maddy Westbeld who averaged 15 points, 8 rebounds, who shot 39% from 3 and 79% from the free throw line. That's what she did as a freshman. This season as a junior, we occasionally saw flashes of her freshman self, like when she dropped 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists on over 50% shooting against UConn. Niele Ivey will see how well Hidalgo and Joyce Edwards work together and use similar schemes with Hidalgo and Westbeld, which will yield amazing results. Hidalgo, Citron, and Westbeld will be the big three, but Notre Dame is a lot deeper than that. Lauren Ebo is a big loss for Notre Dame, but I think Kylie will fill in just fine. Kylie is a great defender and is able to abuse mismatches in the paint. This is all Notre Dame will need. The guards will do the bulk of the scoring. Emma Rich is the missing piece that makes Notre Dame a championship contender. If Rich's three-point shooting translates at all to the college level, the NCAA is in trouble. She can shoot deep, shoot off the dribble, and is efficient at it. She once scored 30 points in a quarter, has made 9 threes in a row. In a live game, she can be what Jasmine Carson was for LSU. This is a player teams will ignore and not really game plan against. If she gets red hot, there's nothing the defense can do. Notre Dame easily has the best guard depth in the country. You got KK Bransford, a great slasher who can make off the dribble mid-ranges. You got Prosper, who might actually start depending on how she develops. Her offense looks rough currently, but her defense is already elite. She was only 17 and straight up clamped Haley Van Lith. I'm sure I'll get accused of lying, so I'll post a YouTube short of it later. If she develops an offensive game, who knows what could happen. Ann DeWolf dominated the Atlantic 10 and just transferred to Notre Dame. Unfortunately, this team has one major weakness. Notre Dame post depth is horrendous. For the life of me, I do not understand what Neil was thinking with the transfer portal. Louisville loaded up with post players, and the only big that was added to the team was someone from Pepperdine University who averaged 6 points and 6 rebounds. Lauren Ebo's stats weren't that impressive at her old school, so maybe the same thing will happen with Becky Obinma. But if she's not better than what's described on paper, Notre Dame could have a serious problem. If something happens to Kylie and Westbeld in terms of foul trouble, injuries, or whatever, it's over. The best bet is to run an Ohio State press and pray it works. Against some teams, this could actually work, but teams like South Carolina would completely bulldoze them. I brought up UCLA. Why did I do that? Because let's say the starting lineup is Hidalgo, Citron, Emma Rich, Westbeld, and Watson. The Athletic website has UCLA's projected lineup being Kiki, Rice, Osborne, Cameron Brown, Emily, and Lauren Betts. Where does UCLA have a clear advantage over Notre Dame besides Lauren Betts? We can't say for a fact that Kiki Rice is better than Hidalgo. Hidalgo will probably never have the finishing ability Kiki has. I think Kiki got a better mid-range too, but Hannah smokes Kiki Rice in terms of court vision, and her stealing ability is way better too. Yeah, we haven't seen Hidalgo on a college court, but when they both played in the under-19 FIBA Cup, Hannah was clearly more impactful to the team, so let's just say they're equal for now. If we assume Citron makes literally 0 improvements to her game, which isn't realistic at all, she's still at worst equal to Osborne. Emma Rich versus Cameron Brown. Emma has a lot more talent, but let's say Cameron's veteran experience cancels that out. Maddy Westbeld versus Bessoir. They are very similar as they are both stretch 4 players, but Maddy is better at doing it. UCLA at best is slightly better than Notre Dame. Yeah, you could argue that UCLA has better post reserves, but Notre Dame's guard reserves blows theirs out the water. And that's after lowballing Citron and Emma Rich. I haven't seen any evidence that Corey Close is a better coach than Neil Ivey either. So if UCLA is a top 4 team and competing for the national title, how the heck is Notre Dame not? So either Notre Dame is being very underrated or UCLA is overrated. I think it's a little bit of both. If someone wants to say Notre Dame isn't a title contender, I can't get too mad at that. But if that same person says UCLA is a title contender, I'll be very confused. Notre Dame made the Sweet 16 with Olivia being hurt. There's no chance they'll be worse than this. They were playing without a point guard and only had like 2 weeks to adapt. Now they have had over 7 months and added some elite freshmen. If you don't remember anything from this video, remember this. Notre Dame are the 49ers of the NCAA, and Hannah Hidalgo is Brock Purdy. Everybody thought the 49ers season was over and would never be able to compete for a Super Bowl once their quarterbacks got hurt. Then Brock Purdy steps on the scene. He looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and everyone starts making excuses. Oh, it's just the system. Oh, it's just because he's playing weak teams. Oh, it's just because they don't have film on him. It's going to be the same thing with Hidalgo. She's going to ball out against South Carolina, and it's going to get written off as a fluke. She'll dominate the next several games after that, but it will be written off because it's against mediocre teams. When the ACC comes and she dominates, people will cope and say the ACC got weaker. And I'll tell you exactly why she will dominate. It's because she can have an off shooting night and still be one of the best players in the floor. She has that Alexis Morris in her. Yeah, there might be some games she's off, but she's clamping the other team's scoring guard and she's dropping dimes. I'm not going to name names, but there's a lot of guards who all they can provide is scoring. Their defense is terrible and their passing is average. So if they are having an off shooting night, they are killing your team. That's not Hidalgo. It's not going to be until several months later, until she gets the respect she deserves. But that's okay. It's okay if Notre Dame is consistently ranked a low top 10 team. Teams are going to think, oh, they don't have Olivia Miles. This is easy work. Then they get hit in the mouth Hidalgo is going to be one of the best guards, even as a freshman. Sonia Citron is only going to continue to get better. Westbeld will help stretch the floor, which will open up things for everyone else. Emma, Bransford, and Prosper are going to give quality minutes, whether that be scoring or relentless defense. When I see the teams ranked above them, only UConn and LSU have a decisive advantage over them. South Carolina might too. We'll find out November 6th. Indiana lost Grace Berger and lost in the second round at home to Miami, and no one is using that against them. As far as Tennessee goes, this is all I got to say. If Notre Dame beats them, I don't want to hear anyone saying they only won because Tamari Key hasn't fully recovered, because that didn't stop people from calling them a top 10 team before the season started. Virginia Tech is 2-15 against Notre Dame, and Virginia Tech lost by double digits last season to Notre Dame on their own floor. Yes, Utah almost beat LSU, but they also lost to Washington State in the Pac-12 championship, and they struggled with an Ivy school. I already went over UCLA. Ohio State could potentially be scary, but their press won't help much against Notre Dame. Everyone I just mentioned are great teams, but I haven't seen anything that makes them way better than Notre Dame. Notre Dame can definitely make the Final Four. Olivia Miles could be out, but there's still a ton of talent left, and Neil knows how to use it. How do you feel about Notre Dame? Did this video change your mind on how good they could be without Olivia? I'd love to hear your thoughts one way or the other. Thanks for watching.